Okay. Uh, you want to start off with where we left off and look at the 180s and 360s, just the three ups.
Yeah. You got to be going up.
Better. Just try to come around a little bit more. You're doing about maybe a 359 degree 360. And try to spin a little faster. Yeah, that was good. Make sure you finish making that final catch. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Depending on when you're making that last catch, you can spin while it's gotta already be in your hand. You don't have to completely finish making the catch with the follow through before you would throw again, but it can be on the downward cushion of the catch as you start spinning, just as long as it's already in your hand and your fingers have already grasped it, so it's in there. Yeah, you don't want to be swiping while turning, but you want to catch and then turn. You were kind of doing that. Just want to make sure that it doesn't turn into a swipe as you try to spin faster. Yeah, like that one was kind of a swipe.
Oh, okay.
So you don't want to confuse the faster spin. Yeah, there you go. One more time. And you're alternating sides right now, right? Yeah. Yeah. And then when you come around, just focus on keeping the basic 5-ball pattern balanced. So after you've thrown the 3 up, after you spin, all you're thinking about is a symmetrical 5-ball pattern. Yeah, that's the right idea. Try one with the 3 up a little bit higher. And now from the left. Yeah, that one actually. Oh, because you're turning to the left. That one seems smoother when you turn to the left. Let's see a 5 up from the right. A little bit faster on the spin. The timing was good. It's just the spin was a little slow. Yeah. Okay, good. Stop. So that speed, what you just did there, that speed was faster than any of the spins that you did in the competition and any other time that I've seen you do it. So that amount of effort is really going to help get you around quick enough so that you don't drop anything, and also so that you catch everything in the right time. It's just going to make the whole 360 experience much more pleasant and much easier. Slow spins lead to, you can still catch it, but you're not facing the right direction. They lead to incomplete turns. So the faster you go, the better chance you have of getting all the way around also. Let's try a 5 up starting from the left now. Again, faster on the spin. One more time, and try to keep the pattern balanced when you re-enter the pattern. Because right now, your pattern, your right hand throws are wide, and your left hand throws aren't crossing through the center. So when you throw the 5 up 360, that's even more exacerbated. Yeah, like everything is over on your left side with that. So first, try to move your whole pattern a little bit more to your right. Just your basic 5. Yeah, a little bit more. Cross more with the left through the middle. Yeah, widen up the right side by throwing wider with the left. So your left side, get that to go through the middle and get further over to the right. Right, yeah. But maintain that. The first one was good, but then it defaulted back to the left side. So everything is kind of, your whole pattern is a little offset over here. And try to get it centered more.
Here and here.
Yeah, exactly. Right there, right there. A little bit more. Yeah, right there. Right there. Yeah. And keep the left crossing over. Yeah, you have to consciously think about that because you'll get it there, but then it starts moving back to the left side. So bring it more, even more through the middle on the left. Because you see how that last throw went back out to the outside? So you have a tendency of throwing your left-hand throws and keeping them on your left side. So instead of crossing through the pattern like this, you've got a pattern going that's kind of like this. Your right is overcompensating for it. Yeah, exactly. Your right is pushing the whole thing over, or the left just isn't coming over enough. So stop for a second. Try to start the pattern over again start with your left hand and have your left cross right through your face and keep all the left hand throws crossing through the face. Okay, so stop. So your first one was good, and then you changed the whole pattern so that it could go back over to your left side. So think about, yeah. So think about every single throw going through the middle, and keep pushing every throw through your face from the left side, more from the middle. Even more. Widen up the left hand throws. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's centered. It's what it feels like. But if I'm looking at you straight on, that's a balanced, centered pattern. Try it again. You're standing right in front of the camera, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me see it again. Yeah, that's good. That's perfect. And you should be able, yeah, so much nicer. Now the only thing, your last throw didn't cross all the way. The first four were set up good, but then probably because you were thinking of turning, you started thinking about that a little bit too soon, and it affected where you threw the last throw. So don't think about turning until you've finished following through on that last throw. Start with just a centered, balanced pattern. Right, now follow that same path, just higher. Better, yeah. Yeah, and just stay there until that last throw, you see it and confirm it followed the same path as all the other ones, all the way through to the other side. Cross more with the left. Good. Right. You see how you're reaching into the middle to catch that last throw? That's because it's not crossing enough. There we go. Right. Now your spin just had to be faster, but all the throws were good. There we go. Very nice. Now you didn't think about the re-entry on that one. So after you get all of those elements built on top of each other, then just forget about everything you were just thinking about, and all you have to focus on is what the basic pattern is going to look like after you come around and re-enter it.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah. Much easier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that caused a lot of the problems after you come around and you try to continue the pattern, because it gets worse the higher you go. And it's all over there, and you're coming around and you're still facing forward, but the pattern's still over there, and now you're coming around, you're even farther away from it, and then having to control it, especially when you weren't even spinning all the way around. Your whole pattern was as if someone next to you was juggling, and you're trying to steal the pattern from them, and you're way over on the side.
Yeah.
Let's try the same thing now, starting with the right, leading the 5 up. But it always starts thinking about the basic pattern, because you have to think about that for a little while to keep that centered.
Mm-hmm.
So get the left more through the middle. That's still a little bit off right there. Okay. Yeah, good.
Good thing.
Okay, the other thing is when you're in the middle of trying to fix the pattern and get it right, that's not the time to start a 5 up, because the throws will be affected by the direction you're trying to correct the pattern, and then it'll go even more in that direction. So I think we went over this rule before, right? If you can't start the trick within a qualify of the pattern, just stop and start over, because then all you're doing is trying to fix the pattern. So you want to be able to you want to be able to do a trick within the first 10 throws of 5 balls, assuming that your 5-ball pattern is correct. And if it's not, then just start over again. Right. That just needs to be more in front of you because it's still on the left side a little bit. So get that centered more. Right. Now, when you come back around, focus on all of the heights being even of all of the throws. And you can use your throws are getting a little too narrow. They need to have, yeah, like some of those throws don't quite cross over. They go straighter up than others. And that's going to, when you start to do the 5-up, it's going to lose the shape of the pattern. So your basic pattern, sometimes you've got nice angles like this, but sometimes they change and they go a little too narrow. So you want to make sure when you start, you've got those nice angles on them so they're definitely crossing from one side to the other and not hanging out in the middle. And then that's going to set up the pattern for the 5-up. That's what you want to throw a 5-up out of. Not out of a pattern that's kind of like hanging out in the middle and you're not sure if it's going to get over to the other side or not. So thinking about that from the very beginning, the first 5 throws have to follow that path. You don't want to have to figure it out later. So if the first 5 throws don't look good, you just stop and start over again. So up to 10 throws and then the 5-up 360. Nope, stop. No. Nope, no. This is not bad, but it was all on your left side. So really look at where your left-hand throws are going. Give it room to get over to the other side. Your face is in the middle of the pattern. So when you see the balls peaking, you should be able to gauge if you are underneath the center of the pattern or if it's off to the right or the left. That was better. Yeah, that was better. But now your re-entry went to your left side. So when you come around, when you re-enter the pattern, because you're starting with the left, so focus on the left crossing through the middle and going all the way to your right side so that your right hand doesn't have to reach over to get it. Let's see it again. That one was better. Yeah. That's the right idea. All right, stop.
On my right. That it's going to take time for me to feel centered because for now I think I'm feeling like you to get in.
Yeah, it is centered though. It's going to feel like it's off to the right side too much because you've been doing it to the left side too much. But if you shoot some, that's nice and centered. Yeah. Yeah, very good. And then from there, that should be, yeah. It's so much easier because it's coming down in a balanced fashion. You're not having to move your body over to one side or the other or just even your arms. And the balls just come down. So the best pattern is the most energy efficient too. So it just comes right back down where you were. Assuming you made a full 360-degree turn around, you just have to continue. And so you know it when it happens too. So there's muscling through it and then there's just doing it with ease. And we want to do it with ease. So I would recommend you shoot some video of you doing this so that you can see the difference and you can see what your pattern looks like, and do it within your practice session. Like if you're practicing on your own right now, just record 3, 4, or 5 attempts of this and take a look at them while you're focusing on trying to keep it balanced. And then you can see if it is balanced or not. And if it feels like you're too much to the right side, but it looks like it's centered, then it is centered. And it's not too much to your right.
I think I'm struggling with Club Backcrosses for a little bit too much, a little bit too long.
The side that's wider is going to be easier for you to go into Backcrosses. If there's a side that's narrow, you've got to pull it from the middle and then out to the side before you go behind your back. So for Backcrosses, you want a wider pattern to start with, but you want it symmetrically wide so that each hand feels exactly the same. Each arm is doing the exact same thing. And it's just like any other trick or a transition. You want as little repositioning distance and time between throwing and catching position as possible. So you want to catch the ball as close to where you're going to throw it as possible. And you want to throw it as close to where you're going to catch it as possible. So that way it's just robotic. It's just up, down, up, down, up, down, and there's no side to side fixing, repositioning, or anything like that. Well, let me see it. It's good to get ahead of it before you practice it for too much longer, just in case there's anything that you want to fix. All right, yeah, so from right there, first you need a wider basic pattern, and it has to be centered. So everything's going through the middle, but you can go wider on both sides. So get the left more to the right and get the right more to the left. Push the left out more. And let's just do 3 throws. Because think about where your hands are when you go down to do a back cross. That's where you want your basic pattern throws to land before you go into back crosses. So much wider than that, even wider. Now when you do the back crosses, try to bring your hand farther behind your back so that you're lining up your hand underneath the opposite shoulder and the ball just goes straight up. There's no angle on it at all. It misses your head entirely and it just turns into, it'll look like a 6-ball pattern.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So even further behind. All right, let's not get carried away with it though. Just 3 throws. Because it all starts with the first 3. And make sure those 3 are the same height as the pattern you start with. So from the very beginning, get that right hand throw all the way. Let's just do 1 throw from the right. And focus on getting that throw all the way over and throwing it straight up over the opposite shoulder. Right, so no angle on it at all. You see how that was going from the middle of your back to the outside. You want to start lined up with the shoulder. So let me see this. Let me see this from behind. So turn and face away from me. And we'll work on that in a bit also.
Understand?
Yeah. So that's still going kind of behind your head. And then when it goes wide, it's because it's coming from an angle. Right. So stop for a second. I want you to feel what it's like to have your hand lined up in the right position. So face away from me, but bring your right arm behind your back. So face the opposite direction. Turn around. Yeah. So bring your arm behind your back as if you're going to do a back cross, but in slow motion. Right. Now pull your arm further over to the other side. Get your elbow there. Right. Now your hand is lined up with the opposite shoulder. From there, you would use a little bit of upward pull on the arm. Right. And then that would go straight up from there. Right. Right. So working on this with 1 ball. Yeah, there you go. Working on this with 1 ball is going to help a lot just so you learn the technique. Good. Yeah. And then from the left. Yeah. Now get it higher. Get it about 5-ball height or a little higher. Not so much forward push on it either. Right. It should just land right in your hand where you're waiting for it. And keep it on the outside of your shoulder. Right there. Yeah. A little bit wider from the left. And try not to pull it back in toward the middle. Like, yeah, you don't want that going toward the center because then you have to reposition back out to the side. That's a better position. Good. Good. A little higher. So to get into this position, you have to think about pulling your elbow along with your arm behind your back so that you have you have your hand far enough behind you so that it's underneath the shoulder, because you just want pillars. You just want these going up and down from the shoulder up here. You don't want them going like this to get there, because then it's crossing behind your head. A lot of times it's going to hit your head because you're looking up and more of your head is in the way. So avoiding the head entirely is going to not only increase your success rate for this, but also aesthetically look better and also be more efficient energy-wise. It's going to be much easier to control. You know, you see a lot of people running it and they're crossing and it looks like they're working hard and they're struggling. But the more you get these, and a little bit of flexibility is involved with that too. So you might want to do some stretches where you just hold your arm in that position and then gently pull up a little bit on it just so you get more flexibility with that. head up, chest up, back flat is the best posture for just about anything you do when you're standing. You don't want to be curved forward. So you can almost think about this as, even if your back is arched a little bit, like if you're doing pull-ups, you're still set up to be able to throw these back crosses ideally, because it's still behind you, and now you've given it something to go underneath and up behind. Instead of, if you're leaning forward, there's no shape or form to that. It's just a curved spine, which is not good anyway. And it's also, your body isn't angled or pointed in the direction of these throws. So by doing this, you're also aiming with your whole upper body where the throws are going to go and where they're going to come down. You're forward like this, and you're like, now you've got to look up while you're leaning. It's just, it doesn't feel good, first of all. It seems obvious to me that that's not the way to do that.
Okay.
Same thing with clubs also. Clubs are in some ways easier because you've got the length of the club to get behind your back, so you don't have to bring your hand all the way over to the other side. You just need to bring the club all the way over to the other side. But you've got the length of the club to help you make up for that distance. We can get to the clubs in a second and work on some back crosses, but I want to go over the 180s first. Remember, get your feet in position before you pivot. Good. And remember, keep the pattern centered and balanced. And even though it's a 180, they should still be crossing just like it's a 360. So the third ball needs to cross on the inside of the first throw, so they're not in front of each other. Like, I should never see a ball eclipsing another ball. They should always clear the center. Yeah, it should look just like you were doing a 360, or not even doing anything. It should look exactly like the basic pattern. The same angle on the throws, right? Again? Right, so your third throw crossed, it went behind the first throw. So make sure everything is crossing through the middle over to the other side. And again. Better. Yeah, I'd like to see that third throw start more in the middle than already on the other side, because it's getting close to being behind the first one. And that can work when you're doing a 180 because they're traveling backwards. But that's not the right pattern for this, and that could lead to collisions if you throw one sooner than the other ones, or with more of a backward angle on it. So you want to do a combination of both, keeping the same pattern like this, then just moving it back. Center the pattern a little more. There we go. Nice. Yeah, that's the right idea. Yeah, the end result is much better. And the more you think about it, the more you do it like that, the more that'll become part of your muscle memory, and the easier it's going to be, because it's an easier way to do the trick. Right now, it's complicated to think about all these things to fix before you do it, but that's what's going to lead to being able to do it consistently, reliably, and easily. Let's see the 5-ups. So start facing away. So same principles. It's the exact same thing, just 2 more throws, maybe a little bit higher. Yeah, not bad. Just try to re-enter a more balanced, centered pattern. First one didn't cross. The first one just kind of stayed in the middle, and then everything went behind it.
Yeah.
So think of this the same way you think of your 3-up, just a little higher, and stay there for the other 2 throws. Right, now especially that last throw, you're cheating it a little bit by throwing it all over already on the other side. Everything has to cross through the middle. It's just an extension of your basic pattern. It should look exactly the same in the air, just a little higher and pushed back a bit more. There we go. Yeah, that was good. That's what we're looking for the 5-ups. Right. You just want to make sure you're throwing the first one high enough that you have time to throw all of the throws at the same the same rate of release, so that at the end you're not throwing the last two quicker than the first three. You don't want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want everything to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same amount of time in between each throw. And the most common mistake with that is throwing too low from the beginning. And then at the end you're rushed to make the final throw because the first one's already coming down, and then you combine the last throw with the turn, and then everything goes to hell. So better to get more accurate, higher throws, and then that just gives you more time to do everything. So let's try it one more time. Throw a little bit higher than you've been throwing before, just to work on a higher version of this. Move a little bit to your left also. Just a bit to your left.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Centered pattern, and now much higher. Yeah, that was great. That was perfect. That's actually a really good height for that, because nothing was rushed. Everything was thrown at the right time. You had time to turn, and then you had time to think about the re-entry. And, if you could do it like that every time, there'd be very little chance of a mistake with that.
Okay.
So here's what I wanted to try to work on a little bit today. All right. Well, you'll see this later on the. So it's a 5-up 180 into a 2-stage 720.
Yeah.
Let me see the 2-stage 720. Okay. Right. So on that second 360, make sure you're turning faster and all the way around, but only after you've caught the balls in between. While you're catching, you have time to reset your feet.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to, but that's a way of doing it if you're not set up for a 720. Yeah, I think from the perspective of your feet, that was fine.
Okay.
Okay, better. Yeah. Don't be in a rush though. Don't be rushed to do this. When you do think of it in 2 stages. All you're doing in the beginning is a 3-up 360. So let's just don't do a 2-stage of this, but do the first 3 the way you would do the 2-stage 720. And think of it just like it's a 3-up 360. Yeah, exactly. Get the pattern a little bit more centered. Right. Now, when you throw that high throw, that third throw, make sure that's still crossing through the middle, because you're going to have collision issues because you're throwing it too wide to begin with. You're throwing it from a wider release point. So you want them all to cross through the same path that your 5-ball cascade is following. Yeah, exactly. So you just do that and turn it into a 360, but you don't change anything with the paths. And remember, make sure you've got an angle on all these throws. Sometimes your pattern gets too narrow and I can't tell if they're going to cross or not. That was better. That was really good. Yeah. I would work on it like that for a while. Don't always do the 2-stage part, because sometimes thinking about the second part of it is going to affect the first part of it, and then you don't have a good quality setup for the second part of it. So do more of the first part, because that's the beginning of the whole thing. Yeah, it's so when you're doing a 5-up 2-stage, you've got 2 throws and then 3 throws.
Yeah.
Right? The first 2 are lower than the last 3. The first 2 should be about a 5-up 360 height, but they can be lower because there's only 2 of them. And if you're snatching the second throw, that means it's too high. You were already there, so it could have been lower. So think about doing a lower second throw, because I think because you're about to do a higher 3, it's affecting the height of your second throw. So make sure your first 2 throws are both at the same height, and they're only as high as they need to be for you to get them before you turn around again. So overall, let's just go lower on the first 2, and then much higher on the last 3. Yeah, and also stay there until you catch it. So the rule is you can't turn until that ball is in your hand. So how quickly can you get that ball in your hand without reaching up to get it? Still lower on the second throw.
Okay.
You also have to keep in mind the shape of the pattern from the beginning, keeping it centered. Just lower on the first 2 throws. There we go. Yeah. Right. Now you didn't have to snag that ball, but you did anyway. So try it again. Be more relaxed with catching the second throw. And then faster on the turn.
Yeah.
But also make sure that the 3 high ones are centered. Yeah, you have a habit of doing that because you've done it so much. Do the setup for the 2 stage, but don't spin the second time. Just stay there and catch them all. But focus on keeping those first 2 lower. Right, now you had time to spin there after you caught the second one. Do it again with just 1 spin though. Yeah, there, right. So looking at the height of the first throw, that's where you aim with the second throw to keep it no higher than that. Because I think what was happening is your second throw was actually going higher. Let's try it again just with 1 throw. 1 spin. Yeah, too high on the second throw. No, wait. First thing, stop for a second. Don't think about the trick from the beginning. All you're thinking about is a perfect 5-ball pattern. If that looks good, then start thinking about the trick. But if you start thinking about the trick, the 5-ball pattern suffers because you're not thinking about it and you still need to think about it. Keep it wider. Keep the angles in a definite direction to the other side, because that's the building blocks for the 2-stage 720 shape. Yeah. So you see how everything is kind of bunching up in the middle there? That's what I'm talking about. That's because there isn't a definite angle on the throws. So you're setting up your template with your basic pattern. Your basic pattern is your template for higher patterns. So if that's not set up right, everything, is kind of doesn't have a definite direction to go in. So you want to constantly follow through. It's like you're creating tracing paper with your basic 5-ball pattern. Then you have a path to follow. So put more focus on that basic pattern before you throw higher. Better. I would actually go a little bit wider on your basic pattern and get that left hand crossing more to the right side. Let's try it again. 10 throws of the basic pattern, and make sure, focus more on the left. Get more of an angle to the right side out of that left side. So what happens with your basic pattern is if you start off with a good angle, it's auto adjusting to be really narrow. And then it starts to go more and more narrow, and then when they go higher, that only gets them more and more narrow, and then sometimes crossing back to the same side you threw them from. So you need to focus on just a slightly wider pattern so that you see each ball going over to the other side instead of just hanging out in the middle. Yeah, right there is as narrow as you'd want it. I'd go even wider. So aim further to the other side with where those balls are peaking.
Like this?
Yeah, right. Yeah, now follow that same path. That was better, yeah. So now for the 2-stage, still lower on the second throw. So think of it in sets of 2 and then 3. 2 throws, 3 throws. Different tricks. And so what I usually do with this one, you still need more of a direction on that second throw, but I throw the first 2 throws, and then I use where those are to guide me through the middle for 1, 2, 3. So I do 1, 2, I look at where those are, confirm they're in the right place, and if they are, that shows me exactly where the 3 need to be. And they're symmetrically placed in between those 2. Right. That also means the third throw, too, has to go through the middle of all of that. So stay there to see that happen before you start thinking about turning. Right. And the problem, like that third throw might have been placed correctly if the rest of the throws were wider. But since you're running out of room in the middle because everything's so narrow, there's almost not enough space for it. So that's why you're chucking it out to the side. But if you widen up everything else, like it's so narrow right now, you've got room to go wider and still keep it inside your body frame. So
Okay.
So wider is really the answer to a lot of the problems that you have here with the setup. Because look at, yeah, that's the bare minimum, or that's the maximum narrowness that I think that would be achievable at. But you could go a little wider. Until you've gone too wide, you don't know how wide you can go. So go wider than you think you need to and see what that feels like. Like your idea of an exaggerated wide pattern. Yeah, and that would have worked. There's still the issue of the second throw being too high. So keeping that width on it and just less force on the first two throws. The power comes in the last three. Yeah. Yeah, so usually I'm thinking of this like it's a gentle setup. The first two, since they're not going as high, it doesn't take that much effort. So it's just a gentle extra push to those. Then once those are up, the power move comes with those final three that have to be up there for two spins. But go easy on the first two, hard on the last three. Yeah, there you go. That's the right idea. That's the best that you've done so far today. The only issue is on the re-entry, you didn't cross through the middle. It went out to the side. But that was... But, I mean, that's the easy part to fix. That's the easy part to fix. The hard part is what you did. So you did the hard part, and that width of a pattern is probably where you should be working for a lot of these to be easier when you start throwing. Like, that narrow pattern is fine for if you're just juggling 5. But if you're going to start throwing higher, you're losing the direction of where the balls are supposed to go, and you're running out of space in the middle. So you need a certain amount of space to fit them, to have them all cross through evenly. But let's go to clubs. Let's look at the Backcrosses a little bit.
Okay.
Warm up for it, and let me know when you're ready for me to look at it. The one thing I will tell you is before you start anything, make sure your weight is balanced on both feet, and don't let yourself walk around. First thing, so same thing with your 5 club pattern. Get that more through the middle, because that whole pattern is a little bit on your left side right now also. Yes, yeah. Keep pushing to your right side a bit more. Even wider with the left. Still through the middle. There, yeah. Good. Now keep your weight balanced on both feet. Hold on, no back crosses yet. Let's just get... Hold on. Let's just get the basic pattern going here. So let's do this. Let's do 10 throws and then stop. Just to the basic pattern. Weight even on both feet. Left hand going through the middle. All right, and stop. How does that feel?
Weird.
Okay, let's do it again. Good. Yeah, stop. That's a nice centered pattern. The fact that you can do it tells me that you'll be able to do it if you get good at what you practice, right? So you've gotten good at correcting a pattern that's off to your left side and working tricks into it. If you spend just a little time focusing on this and making sure every time you juggle 5 clubs, that's what it looks like, then that'll become part, just like I was saying before, that'll become part of your muscle memory. You won't have to think about it anymore. But maybe 3 days to a week, you're going to have to spend some mental energy focusing on that reminding yourself to think about it, because it is going to be way more beneficial. You know, when I started training Kevin like maybe a year ago, his whole pattern was just like Spencer. It was just way off to the side. So the first thing we did, we spent a couple of weeks not doing any tricks at all, just fixing that. And then he did, and he fixed it. And then the tricks are so much easier. He didn't lose the ability to do the tricks. It got easier to do them because he was doing them out of a more balanced, symmetrical pattern. So even if you're not going to work on all of your tricks to the same capacity that you were doing before, I think you'll still be able to, because you can do this. So if we're working on backcrosses, the first thing, it's going to be an if-then equation. If your 5-club pattern is centered like this, then you can work on the backcrosses per run, right? So per attempt. So if you start 5 clubs and it's off to the side, you don't go into the backcrosses. You stop, you fix it, and then you wait until it's centered, then you work on the backcrosses. So you can do a combination of both. This is mostly instruction for your left hand. The right can pretty much continue doing what it's doing as long as the left is behaving. So let's take it easy. Let's do 10 more throws of the basic pattern and just throw one backcross in a double from the right to the left, and then try to continue in 5 with it still being centered and balanced. Okay, so a lot of that time was spent trying to fix the pattern, more than 10 throws. So from the very beginning, it was off to your left side. So get the left more to the right. It's also going to make that backcross way easier, because just like you were doing with balls, widening up the pattern is going to make it easier for you to go into a backcross. And the way your pattern was before, the left hand wasn't crossing enough, so you were having to pull it from the middle out to the side and then down and behind you. Whereas if you do it this way, once you get this correct, the backcross is going to be almost a seamless connection. So just focus on getting the left hand wide across to the other side, and then match that with the right to the left. Yes. Right, now from there, I would do an even... That was okay. I would do a wider pattern overall, just because you're going into backcrosses. Right, now with that backcross, get that backcross a little bit wider also, so it's not coming out in front of you. Like, yeah, right now, it's coming out in front of your arm instead of out to the side. So throw it away from you to the side a little bit more. There, right. Now not so far forward. The same distance to the left. Right. All right, stop there. So did you feel, on that last backcross, did you feel the ease that you were able to make that backcross and catch it with? That's what you want every time. You don't want it to be a struggle on either end, starting it or stopping it. It should just be a seamless transition behind your back, and then after you've made the throw, you just move your hand to where you catch and it's right there. Instead of, oh shit, it's here, now it has to be here to throw either a basic pattern or back into another backcross. So if you're going to do a run of backcrosses, they all have to be in the same place. So you have to think differently about what you're aiming for. You want to keep them kind of away from you and out to the side. So just as an example of this, let's try 5 throws of backcrosses. Starting with the basic pattern being wide and centered, then 5 throws, and think about getting them too wide. Same height, don't throw them in front at all, just throw them out to the side. Right, so that first one was still too narrow. And if that first one is too narrow, the whole thing is over. It starts sequentially. If the first one's good, the second one you have a better chance at. But if the first one's good, then the whole thing is going to be a struggle. So focus on the first one from the beginning. Widen up the pattern. Think about where that first throw is going to go. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. All right, stop there. Don't do it again. That was easier though, right? It wasn't perfect, but it was easier. It was better.
Yeah. It is hard for me to think and center. Because for me, the position is like sitting at the start like this. Sitting completely like this.
So when you're looking up, it doesn't look centered to you?
No, no, it's just that for me, all my pattern is here.
Wow. Okay.
So
Because when you look up, you should be able to see, like, you know where your head is, and you should see up there that the clubs are equidistant from the middle, from where your nose is.
For me, it's a distance will be like this.
Yeah, that is centered.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I would work more on the first 5 and a re-entry back into 5 than doing longer runs. You can still work on longer runs, but don't keep going just because you can. Only keep going if they're still perfect. And at any point, if you see that you can't re-enter the basic pattern, that's when it's over. Because that means there's something wrong. So more time spent working on the beginning and the end of this, which is 5 throws. That's the most difficult part of 5 Club Backcrosses, starting it and getting out of it. Continuing it is relatively easy if you've got those first 2 things in place. Not that it's not hard, but easier because you've got the setup there, and then you have the best chance for continuation after you've got those first 5 set up. So let's do just as an example, let's do a run of 5 back into the pattern, and then a run of 10 if the first 5 look good.
You mean 5 backcrosses, getting back to the pattern, and 10 backcrosses, getting back to the pattern?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, so you see all those narrow ones there. So fix that up. Do another 5. Don't let your feet move at all. Five again. Much better, much better. All right, stop and rest. We'll go over what just happened there. So the other thing is, because you were moving around a lot in the beginning when you were practicing this, and that's just encouraging the inaccurate throws to continue. But once you tell yourself you're not moving, it took 3 tries for your throws to improve, but it also took 3 tries of you not allowing your body to move for the throws to improve. So the more you tell yourself you're not moving, the better chance you're going to have of making better throws. But you have to consciously tell yourself, this is where I'm standing, because you're telling your arms and your hands, this is my target position. This is where everything has to come back to. And that's what's going to lead to perfect throws, rather than throws that you have to move around to correct. When you get into performing this and competing with it, of course, you're not going to keep those same rules because it's not a practice session anymore. Now it's do or die. So do whatever you have to. But hopefully your training will have been sufficient enough that the inconsistencies will be minimal. So there won't be that much moving around that you would need to do, because nerves are always going to play a factor in the accuracy of the throws. But let's try this again now. So keep all that in mind. 5 throws, not moving your feet, staying right where you are. Also, where your hands are, that's where you want the clubs to come right back down. So not too narrow, out to the side. And then just visualize an easy continuation of the basic 5 club pattern after the 5 throws are out there. Nice. Now try 10. Exactly like those first 5. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Pretty good, right? Part of doing these tricks is also making sure that nothing changes before you start doing the trick. Well, nothing that you don't want to changes. So you do want the pattern to get a little wider. You don't want the clubs to rotate any more than or any less. And oftentimes the problem would probably be that you underspin because you just stop paying attention to the last 2 throws because you're thinking about the back crosses too soon. So same issue with 360s and then re-entry. You have to think about what you're doing while you're doing it. So you can also think of the last 2 throws as part of the trick. And the last 2 throws of the basic pattern is just the basic pattern, but it becomes a trick to maintain the same thing. So you have to think about that also. But I wouldn't do any more on that today, because I think that's what we were looking for, is the ease that you did the flash. You didn't move. And when you have goals like that, your practice doesn't have to last that long. You know, you achieved the goal for today. You can build on that for tomorrow. So I would aim for more repetitions of 5 throws and back into the pattern. Like a set of 5 of those or a set of 10 of those as your primary goal. Not necessarily every single one in a row, because you're still trying to get that perfect. So you have to set realistic goals for how much you can achieve in the amount of time that you have for your practice session. So based on what I saw, though, I think you could probably get that 10 times, and those 10 times would be way more beneficial than just seeing how long you can run 5 club backcrosses for and just keep trying it till you get whatever you want, 30 throws, 50 throws, or whatever, because you're not learning anything with that, really. With this, you're learning the setup, you're learning how to keep your body in one place, you're learning how to perfect those first 5 throws, and you're able to do it. So because you're able to do it, you're going to be able to get more consistent with it much faster. So you're only maybe a week away from going back up to longer runs, longer than 10. But I would focus on 5 and then maybe 3 runs of 10. You know, no more than 3. Yeah, but the 5 is what's most important.